Alright. Hello. Chainsaw Man chapter 207 came out today. And it's a pretty short chapter too, actually, but we're gonna quickly go over it. So the chapter opens with Asa hanging onto Denji's leg, telling him to think happy thoughts, like how Denji did for her back in the first Falling Devil fight. Denji refuses. He thinks he doesn't deserve to be happy. He feels guilty about the people that he failed to save. Um, but Asa promises to make him happy. Meanwhile, the Falling Devil is throwing buildings at the two of them. And Asa reminds Denji that they are superheroes and they need to stop the Falling Devil to save others. And the superhero thing is definitely a concept that I wish Fujimoto would have delved a bit deeper into. I think there was a real possibility for that back when they were still going to school. But alas, we'll maybe talk about that a bit more in a bit. But anyways, Yoru takes over. She turns her right arm into... She manifests the tank in her right arm, and the sudden weight of the tank in her arm drags the two of them down. And she fires at the Falling Devil. So apparently still has access to her previous weapons in the form of bullets. So each bullet is one of her previous swords, and she shoots all the weapons at the Falling Devil, and some of which we recognize, others I think Fujimoto just made up on the spot. So, right off the bat, there is Mr. Tanaka's spinal sword. That's him. They got the apartment sword that Asa used to fight Yoshida. And here is the aquarium trident that Asa had used to get her and Denji out of the Eternity Devil. Although it's not really a trident, there's two pointy ends, so that would be like a spear. I don't know what the word is called for two pointy sticks. Um, but yeah, that's about all that I recognize out of this bunch. If any of you recognize anything more from this, please do share. I went back to quickly skim over most of Asa Yoru's fights in part 2. I don't think there's any more weapons that comes off the top of my head. There is the Asa's school uniform sword that broke instantly against Yuko. Um, and then I think there's like a ruler sword that she had against the Falling Devil the first time. Yeah, that's about the extent of the ones that I recognize. But here are some other interesting ones that got their own panel. This one may be a mantis leg dagger. I was gonna say maybe like a crab leg, potentially, but the sharpness of this thing looks more like a mantis leg. But I'm not a bug expert. This one looks like a carpenter tool, like a carpenter chisel, or maybe it's like a painting scalpel. I don't know what the thing is called. I'm not the biggest painter out there. This one looks like the head of a beetle, and it smashes into the Falling Devil's face, cracking her head open into many pieces. This one might be easier to figure out. It's a tetrapod, which is what Japan has on their beaches to stop the waves from hitting the shores as hard. So it's like a tsunami resistant thing. I don't know if there's like a more proper name for these. But anyways, Yoru spams swords onto the Falling Devil and buries her in a pile of weapons. And I took a look into these. I don't think any of them we've seen before, but a couple of them are pretty interesting. I think the top one, whoops, I clicked way too far. Top one is probably a vacuum. This one is a light bulb. Um, Let me see what else. This one may be a bat, like the animal. So she could have taken the literal bat and turned it into a weapon as well. This one is a mannequin. Might be a bicycle here. And that might be a fire hydrant or maybe a mailbox. This is either a lantern or maybe a kendo mask. So there's a lot of details that went into these swords and axes and others. With that being said, I do feel like I feel like this would have hit harder if we've seen Asa use some of these weapons more. Because I assume most of these are from the period where she took over for Denji. And I said it at the time, like the very moment that chapter dropped, but I think that was a mistake for Fujimoto to just skip that entire period. Definitely a weird choice, but that's the end of the chapter. Like I said, a pretty quick chapter this week. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Comments for the week. Denji think all the people he failed, not the people he has saved in the past. Eating Makima saved humanity. You know, I think that's somewhat debatable because Makima, she did say that her goal was to use Pochita to erase the unpleasantness of life. I think her motivation wasn't genuine, but you know, she could have had positive outcomes out of that. That's something I feel like a lot of the fan base kind of glossed over for the most part, and that Denji beating Makima at that time could have had negative consequences for humanity as a whole. Um, but yeah, anyways, the Asa that asked Denji to end her because she was scared to do it herself is rescuing Denji from his misery and vows to make him happy. Way to bounce back, Asa. Yeah, that's interesting in that she is no longer suicidal, so that's pretty cool. Let's see. Chapter shows that Asa is at her best when she doesn't think but react. Yes, that's also kind of what Asa told Denji to do. She says that Denji is dumb and, you know, he shouldn't think that much. And the same goes for her as well. So they have a lot of similarities going on. Asa stopped tripping the moment she stopped thinking her nihilism was cancelled by love. Yes. Tank works interestingly, works as a machine gun. All her warehouse of weapons that answers where her weapons go after using. I always kind of assumed that most of her weapons break after using because when she used her school uniform sword against Yuko, it just broke after one use. So, and that's like something that was valuable to her. So, in my head, when she picks up like a random object, it's not going to be as meaningful to her. So I just always assume she no longer has access to it after a single use. Mm, but yeah, the tank is. I do wish the tank has a different design though, because if Fujimoto didn't tell me that it was a tank, I would not have recognized it as such. Where is the panel for tank? Oh, I didn't copy. I just drew it. But yeah. Let's see. Where was I? More than any other weapon, the machine gun has taken more life during both wars. More than the bombs combined. Or I need a second to think about that. Is that true? Because I know the air raids at the time killed a lot of people in the Second World War, especially. Like, not even counting the ones in Japan. Because I know the In the Philippines, they were bombing the hell of the civilians. Like something like 1/10 of the civilians died in the Philippines just from like friendly fire bombs. Um, but I'm gonna have to fact check that in a bit. I guess maybe that still works out because I assume like if it's just World War I, I believe, but World War II, that's where I'm a bit. I need to Google that in a bit. But yeah, let's see. Where am I? Ice Cream Sword was funny. I guess those were experiments. Yes, I was looking forward to I was especially trying to look for the sushi sword cuz if you remember after Pochita came out in like chapter 170ish, Asa jumped from the building with her nigiri sword. So that's my personal favorite. Let's see. Also to work as a devil hunter while in the church. She probably collected weapons from the devils she took out. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier in that I wish Fujimoto had shown that bit of time where she worked as the church's mascot. Cause like he in that chapter, I think it was like either 135 or 136. Like the chapter opened with Fami, or who we thought was Fami at the time, talking to Asa and Yoru, and then they just time skip right at the end. I felt like that was a missed opportunity to explore the superhero and school life aspect of what part two might have supposed to be. Let's see. Original tank didn't use a cannon but machine gun. Still weird that tank is a machine gun. Like I kind of get the machine gun part of it because like when you think about the tank, there's like a front gunner, unlike the what do you call it? The first part of the tank. Like when I think of a tank, I think of the tank from Halo, where you got like one guy that's driving the tank and that's like firing the cannon, and the other guy that's like in the little cockpit in the front with like a turret. That's my first impression of a tank. But I still think Fujimoto should have done more to differentiate between the gun and the tank. I feel like he should have gone for a more stereotypical look of a tank, maybe just like a big barrel. Because I'm trying to remember if she used tank when she fought Pochita the last time. Because she had her finger gun, but she also had like a big bullet. So I'm not sure if that was like her tank part of a power last time. It would be a little weird if she called her gun and tank and then only used the gun. But I'm not sure. But yeah, anyways, I think that's about the general gist of what we can talk about. I guess the part where she's shooting out her previous weapons kind of gives me a feeling of like that we're approaching the end of part two, because that's something that, like in any other series, that might be something that an author might do where the main character uses all his previous attacks all at once as like a climactic closing. um and narratively, I do feel we're getting closer to that. But that being said, like I said earlier, we didn't see Asa Yoru use most of these weapons, so the impact is just not there. So I'm not sure if that's the intention of Fujimoto. I do hope we got a lot more. Um, especially since we're finally kind of tapping into the superhero aspect of part two. Because in the beginning, especially, there's like some teases that that's the direction that part two was gonna go. And I think chapter 103, the opening of that chapter where you get like a news station interviewing civilians on their thoughts on Chainsaw Man. That was taken straight out of like a Spider-Man issue. So I always felt that that was something Fujimoto could have tapped into, and maybe he will. Maybe we're just getting started. Hopefully we are. But yeah. Let's see. Machine Gun took the most lives in World War One. Your mistake should have specified. No. Honestly, you might even be right in both words. Like that's gonna be the first thing I do when I finish up the stream is to fact check that, because that is interesting. Because I imagine in the Western Front there weren't as many bombs being dropped on cities, where it's, taken, the battles are taken mostly like with guns and guns and other ground troop shit. But yeah. In the anime, ranking of heroes, a way to defeat an immortal was to bury him in a rock. Volume confined him, defeating him. Ranking of heroes. Is that, no, I'm thinking of another one. I'm thinking of King's Game, I believe. That sounds familiar, though. I haven't watched it yet. I actually haven't watched any anime in a bit. I just read manga. Lately, maybe I'm growing older, but lately I feel like I'm having trouble watching anime of mangas that I've already read. Alas. But yeah, I think that's about all I got for the week. Again, a relatively short chapter. The chapter is titled Buddha 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 because Yoru's making gun noises as she's firing. Yeah, I think that's about all I got for the week. Thank you for the comments, and there will be another chapter